Good morning, guys. I have a talk today on gender and sexuality. As Ms. Michelle has been telling all of you, I've done this talk 3 times now, 4th time, but on the other year groups I talk more about casual sexism and things like that. And in our year group, I think we're more mature and a little older, so we can start discussing what sexuality is and what sexuality means. And you might be thinking, why are you doing this, Louise? What kind of authority are you in the field? Did you know this stuff? No, I don't have a degree, but I read a lot of things, and like Ms. Michelle, I think it's extremely important that this sort of information starts becoming disseminated inside our school. And I was the one who put a lot of pressure into the PSHE program so we could have some sort of gender sexuality debate within our PSHE classes. So that's why I'm here. And I think this is extremely important, and because I love giving these talks. So if you guys love hearing these talks, we're going to have super fun. It'll be really good. As someone who does theater, I know that the better the audience, the better the show. So please make sure you make appropriate comments or questions when I ask for appropriate comments and questions. And we will be having question time at the end if you want to ask anything. Okay. Before we even get started, just going to repeat what Ms. Michelle said. This is not a war on the genders, okay, for the love of God. We're giving you theory here. And let's be intelligent and listen a little bit to what I have to say. So, these are some useful definitions before we start with the talk. What does sexism mean? It's the practice, stereotyping, or discrimination, typically against women on the basis of sex, typically against women. Feminism. I am a feminist. No, it doesn't mean I'm a misandrist, which means I hate men. I don't hate men. I like men. Yet of women's rights on the grounds of political, social, and economic equality to men. So, if you feel like this is factual to you, that second definition, you can call yourself a feminist. I'm not going to make you do it if you don't want to, but it's what it means. It's the dictionary definition. No matter what people are saying on 9gag, that's not true. This is what it means. Cool. So, let's talk about sexuality and the sexual community. What makes you you? There are many components to yourself as a person that define what you are as a sexual entity. The first one is your biological sex, which is what you have in between your legs. And usually the parameter of society by defining who you are as a person. So we all know that's not true. It's binary, so you're either literally X or Y. Though sometimes people get both, or it's rare. It's mostly one or the other. Gender identity. This is what you regard yourself as. Do you identify yourself as a male, as a female, as both, as neither? The amazing thing about gender identity is that it has nothing to do with your biological sex. And it's a spectrum. It's enormous. You can be an immense range of things. And it's super cool because it makes the earth diverse. Sexual orientation. It's who are you sexually attracted to? Males, females, both, neither. And the interesting thing about sexual orientation is that it also measures an intensity. So asexuals are a sexual orientation. People who are asexual have a sexual orientation. And guess what? It's a spectrum as well. It can range from a lot of things. Romantic orientation. This is pretty new. It's starting around with some theorists that are saying that though you might be sexually attracted to a certain gender or a certain characteristic of people, you might not be romantically inclined to them. So this one would be defined as who you want to start your life with, or have a home with, or have a family. And it doesn't have to do with any of the previous things. Listen. There is sexual behavior, which is how you externalize your sexual orientation. So you can be heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, celibate, even though you have a sexual orientation. These are all manifestations of sexual behavior. And gender roles are kind of all the things that society expects of your biological sex thrust upon you. And though society will say that gender roles are a dichotomy, masculine and feminine, we kind of know that's not true. The world's not black and white like that. And it's a spectrum, I guess. And you can be a lot of things in between. So that defines what encompasses everything that makes us, rather. And the thing about our society is that we are very heteronormative, denote or relate to a worldview that promotes heterosexuality as the normal or preferred sexual orientation, or the body of lifestyle norm that holds that people fall into distinct and complementary genders, man and woman, with natural forms of life. Of course, this is not going to work in practice, because I just went back there and showed that human beings are extremely complex when it comes to sexuality. It could be a whole range of things. How on earth are we going to manage to have a heteronormative society and not be frustrated or angry or violent? It doesn't work. We are frustrated and angry and violent. Because no matter if you want to be truly, let's say, honest about the person that you are, you're not going to be able to fit into the parameters that society has established for you. The ones that say that men and women should be dichotomous groups that should behave completely different ways. And the thing about this heteronormative society is that it goes ahead and it changes completely what is female sexuality and what is male sexuality, so it fits this board, so it fits this pattern, even though it's not what you might be feeling is right or wrong. So it's really important to know that this sort of thing, heteronormativity, is pretty real and it exists. And if you act outside of the line, suddenly you might be a victim of abuse, or people might call you out for being strange or weird or queer if you're not following the heteronormative thing. So if we're giving a very not aggressive example of this, when I cut my hair, people asked me if I was a lesbian now. And it was really difficult for me to connect the dots between short hair and lesbianism. But it's a thing, because in a heteronormative society, women who are straight have short hair, even though it has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. So guys who, for example, like watching romantic comedies might be considered queer and gay just because they like romantic comedies, and like honestly, it has nothing to do with their sexual orientation. These are at least extreme examples of how people could be judged inside a heteronormative society. So now that we know that heteronormativity twists what is truly male and female sexuality, or just human sexuality, if you will, let's look at what it does to female sexuality. Always within the heteronormative, it creates the virgin whore dichotomy. Does anyone know what the word dichotomy means? No? Do you know? Do you want to say it? Someone tell me the definition. So it means when you break apart things into two different groups that have no in between. Everyone does probability here, right? So it's mutually exclusive. There's no exclusion. Go Marx. Okay. So the virgin whore dichotomy is something that takes all the women in the world, all of them, and puts them only in two baskets. The ones that are for fun and the ones that are for marriage. And there's not a gray zone here. And it's extremely dangerous to do this because these kind of things happen. You've got these labels attached to them. You got the whore side, you got the bad girl, the slut, sexy, not to marry, aggressive, dirty, wrong, immoral. And on the other side, you have good girl, but she's a prude, and she's modest, she's too married, but she's passive, repressed, ashamed, and boring. And the thing about this dichotomy, actually all dichotomies when we're talking about human relations, is that they're all false. No one is this. No one is this side, and no one is that side. But rather, women have behaviors of the wonderful gray zone, where they might do both things, or one day they might act closer to that side or closer to that side. What I'm trying to stress is that this representation of female sexuality is completely fictitious. None of this fits into what is real and what is true. And the worst part is that both of these, let's call them women, right, are created for men and for male sexual pleasure, or for male ego, right? So you want to be with this one because it's quote unquote fun, but you'd also degrade her because she's dirty and stuff. And the other one wouldn't be fun at all, but she'd be the one you'd show your friends and be like the trophy, like, look how good my girlfriend is, she's so sweet and she's so innocent. And none of these are for women's sexual pleasure in of itself. None of these are representative of what the woman in this situation might be wanting to show and express as her own sexual freedom. So it's really important to know, as women and as men, that our society does this to women. It distorts our sexuality and our sexual expression into these two groups. So how do you do to not get fallen into these two groups? It's not going to be easy, because society is doing it all the time. Slut shaming, things like that, and upholding those values, even though men feel like these ones. It's very, very complicated. But in short, just as long as you know that these things happen, you already become more embracing of diversity and different sorts of sexual expressions and sexual freedoms. That's extremely important. So now that we've looked at female sexuality, let's see what heteronormative society does to the male demographic. We do something really, really sad and scary called male sexual entitlement. And this sort of behavior, again, is not on the conscious level. Men do not act entitled because they want to act entitled. It's all fed in through a society that constantly bombards us with women as objects for consumption. So it's very important to know, though this sort of behavior, I don't think that men are objectively pursuing because they think it's right, but they are subconsciously feeding it into the system again. So what is male sexual entitlement? It is the belief that men are owed sex on account for their maleness. And you're like, Louise, nobody thinks like that. That's really weird. I'm going to go and kind of show you that sometimes, yeah, people sometimes do act like that. And it's really weird. When does sexual entitlement happen? It can happen in many circumstances. For example, in intimate relationships, a lot of people think that boyfriend and girlfriend in a heterosexual couple, that the girlfriend owes sex to her partner, even if they are in a relationship. That's not the case. People should just be having sex if they want to. It's as simple as that. And being in a relationship or not doesn't make this obligatory. Marital rape only became a crime in all the 50 states of the United States in 1993. So it's really scary for people to believe up until that point in the United States that women should be obliged to give sex to their partners just because they're married to them. And a lot of countries still don't have that protection, but it's important to know that it is not the case. It also happens in work scenarios. So if you have sexual harassment in the workplace, and if it gets coverage by the media, a lot of people will say, oh, but she invited it by what she was wearing, or she shouldn't flatter herself. But in fact, nobody is looking at her feeling completely unsafe in a work environment, which could be the case. That's why she went ahead and told the media. She wouldn't have that much trouble if it was something that didn't affect her personally. But most importantly, it happens on the streets and with complete strangers. When you get catcalled in the streets, when people touch you inappropriately in public transport, when people touch you inappropriately in dance clubs and things like that. This is all male sexual entitlement. It's the idea that men are allowed to touch, comment on, be sexually aggressive and intimidating towards women just because they're men and just because they're women. Yes.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah,
alone?
Can you hold it to the end?
Yeah, yes, of course.
No problem. And it's very dangerous, and again, it keeps on to this whole situation of dichotomizing female and male sexuality and upholding this culture that values aggressive male sexuality. Where does it show up? How can male sexual entitlements hurt women? I think I already listed 3 different ways. But one of the most common ways that I think is really close to our reality here is this friend zone stuff. No, you guys heard about the friend zone? Yeah, you probably have the internet. Okay, I hate the friend zone. I think it's the stupidest thing anyone has ever come up with, ever. Okay, why? Because if you are saying, oh, I'm a nice guy, I don't like the other guys who catcall and do mean things to women on the streets, look how cool and decent I am, but you are expecting sex in return for that, then you're not a decent human being. You're just pretending to be a decent human being to get what you want in return. That doesn't make you a good person or better than everyone else. Most importantly, you shouldn't be feeling entitled over someone else's sexual life. If she wants to, if he wants to, if they want to, they will have sex with you. It's not a right you have just for being nice. Women are not vending machines that you put into niceties tokens and then you get sex out. It's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. So it's really important to know that you shouldn't ever feel entitled about someone else, even if buy her things and take her out on dates and things like that. If you want sex from her and she's not giving it and you're feeding this, move on to the next one. Clearly it's not working for you, but don't blame her. The problem with this is that a lot of men can get super hyper aggressive if they get rejected, right? Because everyone is scared of rejection. Women get rejected. I've been rejected a bunch of times. I have, and it doesn't mean, I know, right? Shocking. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to become super duper aggressive with all mankind and oh, men are so horrible and they just hate me and I'm so nice. And, you know, I deserve better than this. Like, come on, let's be real. You can't get a whole demographic, 50% of the world's population, put them in the same bag, and then say that you don't like them just because you got rejected once or twice. But how can male sexual entitlement hurt men? It can, and it does, because of what I just told you. When men get rejected, they don't feel like they're just getting rejected by this one woman. They feel like they're getting rejected on the basis of something a right they have to have. Sex for in heteronormative society is a male right. So when they get rejected, it's a direct hit on their egos. And they can be extremely, extremely hurtful and aggressive towards this. And it's not healthy, and it's very, very destructive. So it's important for men to check themselves to feel, am I sexually entitled? Do I behave in sexual and entitled ways? Because it could actually hurt a lot and make huge negative impacts on this prospective male's sexual life. So again, I'm showing you guys this to know that this is real and this does exist. And the only way to make it stop being real and make it stop existing is for us to check ourselves. So guys in the audience, I invite you to check yourselves. And girls in the audience, I invite you to know that these exist and you shouldn't have to put up with these things. So if you want to cut your hair short and go to school and make talks about it, you don't have to. If you just want to tell people, hey, that's not cool, you're acting in an entitled way. I'd be so happy I'd hug you. That's real and that exists. So we've seen how heteronormative society takes gender stereotypes and completely distorts male and female sexuality, even though we are very complex individuals, and I showed you on the previous slides, that involve a bunch of different things to make us the sexual entities that we are. So control isn't working. No, yes, it is. Okay. And all of this feeds into something which is called rape culture, which is defined as the attitude that self-acceptance is okay within certain circumstances, which is really creepy, really weird. A quarter of women worldwide, a quarter, 1 in every 4 will be victims of rape throughout their lifetimes today. Now that's a lot of people. And when you tell me, oh, but it's far away from our reality, it's only on those Arab, no, it's not. It happens here, it happens everywhere. And the only way that we can start fighting these kind of things is if we start learning about them and talking about these things, because they end up being so taboo that we're being completely passive to an endemic problem that is permeating our daily relations with the examples of casual sexism, but with these most aggressive attacks on people. And of course, men get raped too, and that's fact, right? I didn't research how many men get raped worldwide, I'm sorry. But it's also fact that the vast majority of rapists are male. So if we agree that this is a problem of violence against the female sex, in the sense that it is men typically perpetrating this, we have to know why are men doing this and why is this happening? Because of all the twisted reasons I've talked to. It's a product of sexism, heteronormativity, male sexual attachment, and the misrepresentation of female sexuality. And even creepier, some people who tell, oh no, but women like it. She wants that. It's really messed up. Immensely. And so it's just to emphasize that the reality of rape culture exists in Western society. I think I'd be willing to say throughout the globe. And it's really important for us to be conscious of this be the case. So to wrap this all up, and before I take questions from people, because I'm sure there will be a lot of people asking questions, and it's going to be really helpful. Consent and being sex positive. Sexuality is good, healthy, and natural. How can we be sex positive? So on the other slide, when I was talking about male sexual entitlement, it's not to demonize male sexuality. You can be a sex positive male without feeling entitled. And you can be a sex positive female without having to fall or considering yourself one of the two entities of the femosexuality dichotomy. But we should reject inaccurate representations of femosexuality, boys and girls alike. We should call out male sexual entitlements if we see it happening, boys and girls alike. We should fight rape culture. Like literally, should you go get arms and go fight it? No, but you should externalize your desire to not allow this kind of thing to go on. We should verbally combat it in our day-to-day by not letting things like casual sexism or the other two happen on a frequent basis. Always act within consent. If they don't answer, if you can't hear the answer, if they're passed out, it's rape. Okay? There's like no gray line. It's not blurred lines. I hate that song. But it's no blurred lines. Okay? If there's no consent, it's rape, and it's really illegal. So sex must be happening with explicit yeses. And my own advice to you is that you should embracing and accepting of your own unique sexuality. Nobody here in this room is alike. But all the other traits that put up here, we're all so very different, and it's so wonderful that we're different because the world gets really colorful and fun. And if we were dichotomies, it would be really boring and really brutal. So I'm glad you guys listened to this. I think, we should also accept people who might be different. So besides accepting ourselves, which is very, very vitally important, we should accept everyone else who might be a little bit different or more colorful or less colorful than you. So here I have a list of sources that I use because I clearly don't make all these things by myself. Louise is an amazing YouTuber, everydayfeminism.com. Yes, we have Blog Brothers and Gender by Ray Powell is a really cool book. If you want it lended, I have it, so I can lend it to you if you want it. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much.
Sorry, first I would like to apologize because I thought we could interrupt as you were talking. Second is, there are many episodes in our society about women that were not properly dressed for university and ended up being sexually harassed or sexually abused. Anyway, so of course we need to have the right to dress the way we want and express ourselves the way we want. But I would like to know your opinion about our school trying to teach girls specifically about the dress code and how important this would be in our society. So I would like you to give your opinion about it. I'm
so glad you asked that because it's been on the back of my mind for a couple of days now. And because of this dichotomy of homosexuality, there's a lot of victim blaming going around women when they are the objects of harassment. If they don't behave like the perfect virgin, right, on the other side. And though science researchers in the field show that geographic location and time of the day affect directly instances of sexual abuse and rape, the clothes that the person were wearing are very, very, very small influences on if she was a victim of abuse or not. Even though intuitively we might believe, oh, but the way you dress is inviting, there is no hard evidence to prove that this is the case. People get raped by where they were and at what time, not because of what they were wearing. So this is extremely important to emphasize. Also, on the dress code for school, we should be dressing appropriately for school because it's a workplace, okay? And I agree that if the school has rules about your dress code, shorts can have to be X length above the knee and things like that, it's perfectly fine if they enforce the rule. What is not okay is that sometimes this rule gets enforced by telling us that we are distracting our male peers. And that's extremely dangerous because you're blaming male behavior for female dress codes. And that's not good. Because at the moment, and I've heard teachers like this before saying this, and I won't name them, oh, it's because if you dress like this, you're going to be distracting, you're going to distract them. We can't be held responsible for their behavior, ever. If you tell girls, you shouldn't dress this way because it's not appropriate, then I think it's perfectly all right and fair, because we are in a school, in a professional environment, and we should dress as such. But the message should never be given as saying that we are to blame for their lack of interest and their lack of participation. That's extremely dangerous message, and it's slut shaming. To the heart of it, it's slut shaming, and it's really dangerous. And also, the school does this really creepy thing, again among the where some girls get called out and some girls don't get called out if they're wearing the same thing, because they have different bodies. Okay? And I've seen teachers done this before where 3 different girls are wearing the same shorts, the exact same shorts, but one of them is going to get called out, but the other 2 will not, just because the other one has a different body type than these other 2. I don't have to specify what kind of body type you have, but I think you guys get it. And that's really weird. So if I could say, if I could voice my opinion on this, is that the school should have rules to enforce uniform, even though we don't wear them. Agreed, because this has to be respected as a professional environment. It should not have to be, we should not be to blame for our male peers' behavior, and we should certainly not be called out because of our different bodies. So if tank tops are banned, they should be banned for everyone, not just for some kind of, if short shorts are banned, they should be banned for all girls, not just some certain girls. And I think that's my opinion on that. I hope you're satisfied.
Yes.
Any other questions from the audience? It's like your chance to make me feel embarrassed. Yeah, Clive.
Right. About this. Thank you. Maybe I should change to a comedian instead of a teacher. Now, what about this whole issue of the slut shaming and the whole question of saying that women somehow deserve to be harassed because of what they're wearing? I've seen many times, and I think this is really weird as well. As it's not only men using their arguments, we see women agreeing to that. I mean, the brainwashing is so strong that even women get convinced of that argument. Why do you think that happens? What are the causes of that kind of behavior and thinking?
I'm also glad you brought it up. It's important for us to know that if women weren't sexist, okay, 50% of the roles in Iraq, 51%, I don't think that this kind of thing would be going on. But women are sexist, and they behave in sexist ways, usually because they don't know how destructive it is for people around them and around themselves. But by some sort of human experiments, right, they've been I've been reading that women are more likely to judge and voice their opinions on other women, to devalue them for competition for male attention, right? So for example, if another girl is really, really pretty and she's really amazing, and I'm really jealous of her, and I'm with my girlfriends, or maybe with a guy standing there, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, she's such a slut. But just because I want to value myself higher than she is on like some sort of competition scale. And that's, again, extremely destructive for all women, and we should not be calling ourselves sluts and bitches. And you've all seen Mean Girls, so don't call yourself sluts and bitches, because it just makes it more okay for guys to do that, and it's never okay for guys to do that. Women are sexist, and that's fact. The only way women and men can stop being sexist is if these sort of stuff, these sort of talks become more commonplace, and if we start questioning ourselves why we behave in the ways that we do. But yes, certainly the people who will judge women on what they wear and how they behave are not just men. Women as well are likely to make that comment and say, oh, but she did this and she was such a whore. And so like, it happens, and it's for both.
actually dress this way, so guys will notice that, and so I actually want them to come onto them for the attention, but they're still going to reject them, and they still expect not to be raped.
Okay, that's it. So you're talking to me about egomaniacs. So people who like to be the center of attention, and they get up on stages, and they like being special, and everyone listening to it. People who, let me see if I understand, people who dress provocatively because they want the attention, but at the same time they reject men. I understand it as perfectly fine. Because if you want to dress the way that you want and you want the attention, some people want the attention. You do things because you want attention. But at the same time, if she doesn't want to have sex or she doesn't want to hook up with a guy that she's calling attention for, she doesn't have to. It's as simple as that. And there are also two things. Sometimes you might dress well for yourself, and sometimes you might dress well for others. And as people, I think we've done both for the same. So for example, when I cut my hair short, I did it for me. A lot of people were like, no, don't do it, you're gonna hate it. And then it's like, yay, I love it. And a lot of people were like, you don't look good. And I'm like, I don't care, because I like it. And so it's important to know that, of course, I believe there are women out there who will dress provocatively just because they want to tease, okay? But if they don't respond in the sexual way that they're dressing, they don't have to. There's no line there that says, because I'm wearing X clothing, I should behave in Y manner. So they should definitely be allowed to dress the way they like, and etc. Violence.
You know that like this thing is respectful, like when a man with sex and everything like that. But I would say that also the thing for a man, like a man must be rich, like he must like be perfect for the woman, like he must be a good look, he must be Muslim. Like, what do you think about those women that do that to the man?
Okay, so there are bad people everywhere. Okay, bad people aren't limited to one gender or the other. And I'm glad you mentioned these things, because a lot of people talk about the stereotypes women have to deal with, but the guys have to be the breadwinners, and they have to go out, and they have to buy things, and they have to treat her well, and they always have to pay for everything. And that's not real life, or at least it's not real life for me, because in a mature relationship, I feel like people should divide what they expect of each other, and nobody should just lie on their backs and have people done down to earth for them, because that's extremely immature. Are there quote-unquote gold diggers out there? Yes. Are all women gold diggers? No. Are there stupid, mean, aggressive, misogynist men out there? Yes. Are all men stupid, mean, aggressive, misogynists? No. So I hope that's an answer to your question. I do not think all women will expect that of you. I think that's a very shallow and uninteresting women mind. But these are not the ones you want to get involved with. And I hope that answers your question. And you have this expectation, on males and females, to behave in certain ways because of the heteronormative society. But because now you're conscious of this, you don't have to anymore. I'm a liberated man. I'm my own person. So you don't have to. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, this has to do with many questions. What I see is this, that before you start your sexual life, you have your mind, you and me and everyone, so filled with behaviors, even sexual positions, even when it is time to make that noise or whatever. Everything comes from cinema, everything is in our minds, that we are really not free at all, and society wants this from us because we are consumers. So we want to control us, society or the market wants to control us in this way. And I even have a friend, this came because I have a friend who told me that he felt, the first time he felt sexually free is when he was after 50 years old, because he got rid of all this image and he could be himself and his wife could be herself and feel each other. So my question is how to get free of all these things that you told and the media.
Yeah, so if I understand, we are today, we represent and we externalize products of things that we see in media and and things that we see in media and outside. And that's true. It's something that's like a fact. And it's important to make a strict line by what is cinema and what is like sexual life and sexual behavior with what is. And I think that especially at this stage, when we're starting to like begin to explore our sexualities and things, to not feel like you have to follow this pattern, to be free enough to explore your own sentiments and the direction you want to go in. It's extremely difficult because your whole life you've been receiving messages of how things should be and what you should look for and what you should want and how you should enjoy yourself. And not what I got. That's not how it happens at all. And we have to be literally free from all these terrible, usually destructive images of what sexuality is, so we can find our own, and so we can be sex confident and sex positive individuals who don't have to follow all those stupid things. So I hope that answers your question. And also, I feel that the more you know about this, the easier the burden of letting go of these expectations. Because sometimes you feel like you're disappointed if you don't follow these things. But if you know these things, if you know that they are distortions, and if you know that they're not facts, maybe you're going to be less guilty about letting go of these glamorized image of what female and male sexuality is in the future. So, Rabbi.
What about female sexual entitlement, where that happens a lot in our society, where men cannot say no? If men may reject opportunity, it will be suffer a lot of coercion and experience. And women feel like they have the right when they want. Probably they also live in a society where they cannot say yes, even if they want to. But when they feel, when they are rejected, they feel much like they have the right to have sex with a guy.
So let's twist this around. You're telling me that when a girl wants to have sex with a partner and her boyfriend doesn't want to, or her husband or whatever, she gets rejected, and she thinks this is unusual, not because she feels entitled over his sexuality and his person, but because her whole life she's been fed the idea that he should want it all the time. And that's also not realistic, okay? And that's also dangerous and destructive for relationships. But you should know that this is not female sexual entitlement. It's the idea, a twisted idea of male sexuality that women believe in, because women are sexist as well. And when a man acts in obedience to these stereotypes and these standards, she will feel disappointed or confused because it's not following the pattern she expected all her life. So that does not equal female sexual entitlement. Does that answer your question?